By the mid-1960s, America is becoming increasingly embroiled in the conflict in Southeast Asia. As more and more Americans die in Vietnam, the public debate intensifies.
I shall not seek, and I will not accept, the nomination of my party for another term as your president.
Richard Nixon emerges as the Republican candidate. Milton is invited to serve as an advisor to Nixon. During these years, Milton and others succeed with a dramatic and far-reaching policy initiative.
The use of compulsion is repugnant to our society except in cases of dire emergency.
Milton had been writing and lecturing about the benefits of ending the draft and creating an all-volunteer military.
It is long past time that we return to our basic heritage, got rid of the compulsion in our military service, and return to a voluntary system.
Now the unpopular Vietnam War has driven the issue from the lecture halls to the streets.
I talked to quite a number of SDS groups, and I always got along very well with them because it was clear that our objectives were the same. And what we were talking about was not objectives, but how you achieve those objectives.
As the draft becomes one of the hottest issues of the day, President Nixon creates a commission to consider change. He appoints Milton Friedman and Alan Greenspan.
We had a couple of generals on that commission who obviously were brought up with the draft, believed it was essential. And a general who came before us in testimony.
And so I spoke up and said, General Westmoreland, would you rather command a slave force? And he said, I don't like to hear my drafted soldiers referred to as slaves. And I said, I don't like to hear my patriotic volunteers referred to as mercenaries.
Milton sat there and took his arguments apart piece by piece, never raised his voice.
In any event, General Westmoreland, you are a mercenary general, and I am a mercenary professor. We are served by a mercenary lawyer, we are served by a mercenary doctor.
The general got redder and redder, and at the end of this little set of dissections, the mercenary argument was thoroughly demolished.
And that was the end of the discussion.
Martin Anderson was one of Nixon's official advisors.
I wrote a policy paper recommending getting rid of the draft, and I borrowed liberally from Milton's paper. And Nixon agreed, switched his policy from a universal military service. He advocated it, drove it in the campaign, and in 1971, we eliminated the draft.
Today, Milton still downplays his personal role in ending the draft.
Many people were writing in favor of a volunteer army. It was not my idea in any way, shape, form, or manner.
Milton is rarely wrong about anything. He's wrong about that.
The ramifications have been enormous. Nobody has gone back and said, now, this crazy idea that Milton had way back in the 60s, what were the ramifications? We now have the most powerful force in the world.
And so the American military, long guaranteed a steady supply of recruits from the draft, had suddenly been forced into the marketplace.